The Zodiac Killer, a name synonymous with fear, intrigue, and mystery, has captivated the public's imagination for over half a century. Active in Northern California during the late 1960s and early 1970s, this enigmatic serial killer claimed at least 5 victims and taunted law enforcement with cryptic letters and codes. The identity of the Zodiac Killer remains one of the most enduring unsolved mysteries in American criminal history. This video essay will delve into the chilling details of the Zodiac's crimes, the relentless investigation by law enforcement, the various suspects linked to the case, and the enduring impact of the Zodiac on society and popular culture. Before delving into the specifics of the Zodiac's crimes, it is important to understand the historical context in which these events unfolded. The late 1960s were a tumultuous period marked by political unrest, social change, and a pervasive sense of unease. The Vietnam War, civil rights movement, and counterculture movement fueled a climate of uncertainty and fear, providing a fitting backdrop for the emergence of a ruthless and enigmatic serial killer. The San Francisco Bay Area in particular experienced a surge in violent crime during this era. In the years leading up to the Zodiac's reign of terror, other high-profile cases such as the 1966 murder of nurse Elaine Davis and the 1968 killing spree by the Death House landlady Dorothea Puente had already shaken the region. These unsettling incidents contributed to an atmosphere of fear and mistrust that would only intensify with the appearance of the Zodiac Killer. Within this context, the Zodiac emerged as a sinister figure who not only preyed on innocent victims, but also manipulated the media and taunted law enforcement with his cryptic messages and codes. His crimes and communications tapped into the pervasive sense of unease that permeated the era, leaving a lasting impact on the communities he terrorized and the broader public consciousness. In the following sections, we will explore the chilling details of the Zodiac's known attacks, the exhaustive efforts by law enforcement to apprehend him, and the various suspects who have been linked to the case over the years. We will also examine the enduring legacy of the Zodiac Killer, both as a symbol of the dark undercurrents of the late 1960s and as an enigmatic figure that continues to fascinate and horrify to this day. On December 20th, 1968, David Arthur Faraday, 17, and Betty Lou Jensen, 16, excitedly prepared for their first date. They had met a few weeks earlier at a mutual friend's party and discovered they had a lot in common. Both were high school students and shared an interest in music, particularly rock and roll bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. That evening, David picked Betty up at her house. He had spent hours trying to pick out the perfect outfit, finally settling on a crisp white shirt and black pants. Betty wore a simple yet elegant blue dress. They exchanged nervous smiles as they got into David's car, anticipating the night ahead. They had made plans to attend a local Christmas concert in Benicia, California. The festive atmosphere of the event would provide the perfect backdrop for their blossoming romance. As they entered the venue, the melodic sounds of carolers and the scent of cinnamon and pine filled the air. The couple found their seats and enjoyed the concert, stealing glances at each other during their favorite songs. After the concert, they stopped by a nearby diner to grab a bite to eat. The young couple laughed and chatted, getting to know each other better. They discussed their hobbies, favorite movies, and plans for the future. David shared his dream of becoming a journalist, while Betty spoke about her love for art and her hope to one day become an art teacher. After leaving the diner, they drove to Lake Herman Road, parked their car, and gazed at the stars, enjoying each other's company. The moon cast a soft glow on the surrounding landscape, creating a peaceful, intimate atmosphere. David shyly reached for Betty's hand, and she smiled, her heart racing as they sat in the car, completely unaware of the danger lurking nearby. An unknown assailant approached their vehicle, most likely catching them by surprise. Faraday was forced out of the car and shot in the head, killing him instantly. Jensen, in a desperate attempt to escape, fled from the car. She was gunned down as she ran, her body riddled with bullets. She was found nearly 30 feet away from the car, suggesting she had put up a fight before succumbing to her injuries. Their bodies were discovered later by a passing motorist. The gruesome scene left investigators puzzled. The killer had used a .22 caliber semi-automatic pistol and fired a total of 10 shots. He left no direct evidence at the scene, complicating the investigation. Shell casings were found, but they offered little assistance in identifying the killer. Although several suspects were questioned, the case went cold as months passed without any new leads. At this point, the Zodiac had not yet revealed himself. and the murders seemed like an isolated, albeit horrific event. On July 4, 1969, Darlene Elizabeth Farron, 22, and Michael Renaud Magot, 19, were looking forward to spending the evening together. They had been casually dating for a few weeks and both enjoyed each other's company. Darlene, a lively and outgoing young woman, worked as a waitress at a local restaurant. Michael, a quiet and introverted young man, had recently started working at a gas station. That evening, they decided to catch a fireworks display at a local park to celebrate Independence Day. The warm summer air was filled with excitement as families and friends gathered to enjoy the festivities. The couple found a spot on a grassy hill, laying down a blanket to sit on as they waited for the show to begin. As they watched the fireworks, the sky lit up with brilliant colors, reflecting in their eyes as they shared smiles and laughter. Darlene playfully pointed out shapes in the explosions, while Michael marveled at the spectacle. The atmosphere was electric, and the couple felt drawn closer together as the night went on. After the show, they grabbed some ice cream from a nearby vendor and strolled through the park, discussing their favorite moments from the display. Darlene shared childhood memories of past 4th of July celebrations, and Michael listened intently, enjoying her animated storytelling. As the night wore on, they decided to head to Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo to enjoy some time alone. The park was another popular lover's lane, offering a quiet, secluded spot away from the hustle and bustle of the city. They parked their car beneath the canopy of trees, the glow of the moon filtering through the leaves, creating a serene atmosphere. Darlene and Michael continued their conversation, sharing their dreams and aspirations. Darlene spoke of her passion for fashion and her desire to open her own boutique one day, while Michael opened up about his interest in mechanics and his hopes of eventually owning his own auto repair shop. As they spoke, they noticed a vehicle pull up behind them. Initially, they dismissed it as another couple seeking privacy, but when the driver exited the car and approached their vehicle, they became uneasy. The man shone a bright flashlight into their eyes, temporarily blinding them. He then opened fire, shooting multiple rounds into the car. Darlene was killed instantly, while Michael, despite suffering severe injuries, managed to survive the attack. The killer vanished into the night, leaving behind a scene of chaos and destruction. Within an hour of the shooting, the Zodiac made a chilling phone call to the Vallejo Police Department. He reported the murders, providing details only the killer would know, and linked the crime to the Lake Herman Road murders from the previous December. It was this call that marked the beginning of the Zodiac Killer's terrifying reign of terror. Investigators scrambled to piece together the evidence, now faced with the knowledge that they were dealing with a serial killer. The shooter had used a 9mm semi-automatic pistol in this attack, but like the previous crime scene, there was little concrete evidence to work with. The case remained frustratingly unsolved, as the Zodiac continued to taunt the police with cryptic letters and coded messages. As the people of Northern California grappled with the reality of the Zodiac Killer's presence, fear gripped the region. The unsolved murders of David Arthur Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen, and Darlene Elizabeth Farron weighed heavily on the community, and the question on everyone's mind was, who would be next? On October 11, 1969, San Francisco cab driver Paul Stein picked up a passenger in the city's bustling theater district. The man requested to be taken to the affluent neighborhood of Presidio Heights. As they drove through the city, Stein and his passenger engaged in casual conversation, discussing the latest news and events. Paul Stein was a hard-working man, dedicated to providing for his wife and young children. He took pride in his job and enjoyed the opportunity to meet new people every day. The passenger in his cab that night seemed like just another fare, but Stein had no idea that he was driving the Zodiac Killer. As they arrived at the destination in Presidio Heights, the seemingly ordinary passenger pulled out a gun and shot Stein point-blank in the head. The Zodiac then exited the cab and proceeded to remove a portion of Stein's shirt, which he would later use as proof of his grisly crime. He also took Stein's wallet and car keys before fleeing the scene. Unbeknownst to the Zodiac, several teenagers who lived across the street had witnessed the brutal murder. They quickly called the police, describing the killer as a white man in his 30s or 40s with a stocky build and wearing glasses. Officers in the area were soon alerted to be on the lookout for a man matching this description. As luck would have it, two officers, Donald Fook and Eric Zelms, happened upon a man fitting the description just blocks away from the crime scene. However, Due to a miscommunication, they had been told to be on the lookout for a black suspect, not a white one. They briefly questioned the man but ultimately let him go, not realizing that they had just encountered the Zodiac Killer. Following the murder of Paul Stine, the Zodiac sent a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle, enclosing a blood-stained piece of Stine's shirt as proof of his crime. The killer mocked the police for their failure to apprehend him, even stating that he had spoken with officers that night. The murder of Paul Stine marked a departure from the Zodiac's previous attacks, which had all occurred in remote, secluded areas. The brazen nature of this crime, carried out in a bustling city neighborhood, demonstrated the killer's growing confidence and sent a chilling message to the people of San Francisco. No one was safe from the Zodiac. Despite the large number of suspects investigated over the years, the identity of the Zodiac Killer remains unknown. However, several individuals have been proposed as possible suspects. Arthur Lee Allen is perhaps the most well-known suspect. Robert Graysmith's book, Zodiac, advanced Allen, who died in 1992, as a potential suspect based on circumstantial evidence. Allen had been interviewed by police from the early days of the Zodiac investigations and was the subject of several search warrants over a 20-year period. In 2007, Graysmith noted that several police detectives described Allen as the most likely suspect. However, Dave Toski, the lead detective on the case, later stated that all the evidence against Allen ultimately turned out to be negative. The authenticity of the evidence against Allen remains hotly debated. Other suspects have been proposed over the years, including Ross Sullivan, Lawrence Kane, and Richard Marshall. None of these suspects have been definitively linked to the Zodiac killings. The Zodiac Killer's reign of terror ended as abruptly as it began. After his final letter in 1974, he disappeared from the public eye. Despite numerous investigations and leads over the years, the Zodiac Killer's true identity remains a mystery. The case has captured the public imagination and has been the subject of numerous books, films, and TV shows. The Zodiac Killer has become a cultural icon, representing the ultimate embodiment of evil and the fear of the unknown. In the end, the Zodiac Killer's true legacy may be the impact he had on law enforcement. The Zodiac Killer case remains one of the most famous unsolved crimes in history, and it has had a lasting impact on the way police investigate and solve cases. The Zodiac Killer's use of codes and ciphers, his taunting letters to the press, and his apparent enjoyment of the fear he instilled in his victims and the public have all contributed to his infamy. While the identity of the Zodiac Killer may never be definitively known, the search for the truth continues. The legacy of the Zodiac Killer lives on, and his crimes serve as a reminder of the darkest aspects of the human psyche. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more true scary stories.